There's an alphabet soup of visas. When somebody has a visa, they could have a B1, B2 tourist visa. They could have a J1 exchange visitor visa. They could have an F1 student visa or an M1 student visa. Anytime you see a letter and a number, we're talking about a visa, which is a temporary status or ability to live in the United States. One of the main ones is a student visa. This is for people who come here to study. Typically, that's going to be an F1 or an M1. People can come and study in the United States for high school, for college, or even some vocational schools like cooking or flying. The thing is that these visas are temporary and they don't come with permission to stay in the United States after graduation. So it's really important for people who are here on student visas, if they want to stay permanently, that early on in their studies, they talk to an immigration lawyer about what does the pathway look like for me if I want to stay here permanently? What kind of job do I need to have? What kind of degree do I need to have? When do I need to have all of this locked down so that you're not scrambling at the end and you've graduated and your visa's running out and you don't know what you're going to do? Because it's hard enough deciding what your future looks like when you don't layer immigration questions on top of it. One of the main drawbacks to an F1 student visa is that it doesn't come with work permission. That's why when people apply for student visas at the consulates in their country before they come here, have to show they have the means of supporting themselves during their study. Usually you have to have a big bank account just to get a student visa. There's some ways that you can do practical training, or OPT it's called, while you are studying, but most often F1 students do not work while they're studying and they wait until they have graduation, at which point they have a window of opportunity to go out and find work and hopefully find a company that will petition for them. In general, though, someone who's here studying does not also have eligibility to work legally. Anytime anybody has a visa, they need to know how to maintain the status and not lose it. Because it's real easy to fall out of status if you're a tourist and you accept a job and you receive some money. I've seen musicians lose their visa because they played one gig and took some tips. Or if you're a student, similarly, you're not eligible to work. But also, you have to stay in status with your school. The school is going to have requirements about how many credit hours you have to take, and you have to be showing up to your classes, and you have to be passing your classes. The thing is that most schools that offer student visas have an international student department, and they have someone on site who's there to help guide you and help you know how to stay in status. But I've also talked to a lot of students who unknowingly fell out of status, and sometimes they've had immigration come after them. So it's something that you really want to pay attention to. Don't lose your status, because then if you do and you end up with a deportation, it's really hard to get back to the United States legally in the future. There's two main types of visas for people who come here to study. The F1 visa is what you'll hear about most typically. That's people who come here and they go to a university and they graduate. But there's also a J1 visa, or an exchange visitor visa. And a lot of nannies who come here and work are on a J1, but it can also be scholars or academics, like a Fulbright scholar or a visiting professor. The thing to know about the J1 visa is that half the time it contains something called the foreign residence requirement. And it's right there on the visa in the passport to tell you if you have it or not. This requirement says that at the end of the J1, the holder of the visa has to return to their country for at least 2 years before they can get any other type of entry or legal status in the United States. And the reason for this is that the idea of the J1 often is for someone in their home country to come and study and learn in the United States and then to bring back that knowledge to their home country. So if they've been funded by their government or they're Fulbright, they're almost certainly going to have this foreign residency requirement, and they can't just get married and get a green card. There's a lot of restrictions on J1s. So anytime I see a J1 person come to me and they want to stay permanently, my number one question is, are you subject to this 2-year foreign residence requirement? And if you are, then we can talk waivers.